right, Ronald Reagan said it decades ago, and it's really getting some traction again now with the GOP. Thou shalt not speak ill of a fellow Republican, right? Well, doesn't seem to matter because poor old Mitt Romney's under fire from Rick Perry, from Newt Gingrich, from Rick Santorum, and even Rudy Giuliani was on Piers Morgan last night calling all of this down, saying, cut it out, guys. You're not supposed to be cannibalizing our candidates. In Washington, Democratic strategist Maria Cardona joins us to talk about this and other things. And as well, CNN political editor Paul Steinhauser is with us. And from Chicago, conservative commentator Lenny McAllister. Let's get right into this, folks. And Maria, I want to start with you on this. So they're going after him not only about the whole issue of, you know, capitalism and how his work at Bain was somehow anti what they believe should be the modus operandi of a Republican. I didn't understand any of it, especially since everybody's come out against it and it's really sort of losing traction. But it doesn't stop there. There's a web ad right now that's out, and it's paid for by the Newt Gingrich camp. And it goes after sort of the whole language and leftyism of speaking other languages. Let's play it and then talk on the other side.
Sure. Massachusetts moderate Mitt Romney. He'll say anything to win. Anything. And just like John Kerry,
Laissez les bon temps rouler.
he speaks French, too.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Mitt Romney.
But he's still a Massachusetts moderate. And a Massachusetts moderate cannot beat Barack Obama.
Apparently, Maria, in politics, it's not cool to speak French. So I want to jump off that and talk about Spanish. You're a native of Colombia, and apparently there are all the stories breaking about Mitt Romney having a father who was born in Mexico, and yet Mitt Romney is not bringing that up anywhere. I'm curious as to why not. Wouldn't it help him rather than hurt him?
Well, I think there's a very simple reason, and that is that he really has nothing to say to Latino voters, whether that's in the GOP or in the general election or what have you. The problem with Mitt Romney is that he has taken stances that are just anathema to Latino voters, period. And it ranges from immigration to the economy to healthcare to education, anything, you name it. The key thing is that he has already basically committed to vetoing the DREAM Act if it comes to his desk. Now, we understand and we know that immigration is not the #1 issue for Latino voters, but it is what we call a threshold issue, which is if you are not talking in a respectful tone about immigration to Latino voters, they're not going to listen to you on anything else.
Even if you're one of them, you know, technically.
Absolutely, absolutely, because you know people who have been in the difficult situation of being undocumented, and the only thing that you are looking at is trying to live a better life and to give your family what you couldn't back in your home country in Latin America.
Okay, let me switch gears.
He doesn't know how to do that.
Let me switch gears a little because I'm trying to wedge in a ton of issues in such a quick segment. But Lenny McAllister, I was watching as Rick Santorum was stumping in South Carolina, and I started to get a little uncomfortable at one point as he was suggesting to the South Carolinians that don't get it wrong, South Carolina. Don't let this happen. Don't let Obama get elected, or it's you who lets America down. And I started to think, oh no, don't hurt me. Do you think that's the right tone to take if you're trying to, you know, endear yourself to voters there?
It is if you're trying to get conservative. It's kind of funny something that Maria said. She said that Mitt Romney is committed to voting against the DREAM Act. One of the biggest criticisms about Mitt Romney is the fact that he hasn't been committed to much of anything. And that's what Rick Santorum's trying to get at, is saying, listen, I'm a true conservative that I've stuck to these principles since before it was popular. Mitt Romney is a Johnny-come-lately conservative. In South Carolina, Iowa didn't get it. New Hampshire wasn't going to get it, and if you don't get it, South Carolina, in regards to voting for a true conservative, it may be too late. We may get somebody that's a wishy-washy conservative going up against a strong re-election campaign, and thus we would get a second presidential term from President Barack Obama.
All right, to end on a completely light note, Paul Steinhauser, because you have such a great sense of humor. I watched with glee as Stephen Colbert announced his candidacy for the President of the United States of South Carolina. It ain't even, I mean, it's adorable, but even if it were true that he would want to jump into this fray, it's not possible, is it? You can't just jump on a ballot now, can you?
A couple problems here. Well, first of all, he's from South Carolina. He's a native of the Palmetto State. But you know what? He missed a deadline to get on the ballot. That was back in November 1st to get on the primary ballot. And guess what? South Carolina doesn't have a provision in the primaries for president to be a write-in candidate. So, unfortunately, Stephen Colbert, this is going to be a little tough. You know what he did do, though? He did hand over the PAC to his good buddy Jon Stewart, because you can't be running a PAC and running for president at the same time either. That's illegal. So
Do we know
he
how
did
much money's
step.
in that PAC?
It's a good question. I don't have that figure, but I will now look into it so I can give you an answer on Monday morning.
I wonder what they'd use it for.
Well, you know what he did offer? Do you remember back in November when the South Carolina was running into problems money-wise? The
Yeah,
Republican
he wanted
Party
to
there?
sponsor
He
it.
offered,
Yeah.
He was going to sponsor. They said thanks, but no thanks.
All right, lady and gentlemen, thank you very much. It was good to talk to y'all.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Ashley.
God bless. Have
God
a great
bless.
weekend.
Thank you.
It's still ahead.